The stars had never looked so threatening. Captain Lee Tae-min stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Seoul, watching the massive alien fleet emerge from hyperspace. Each ship was larger than Earth's biggest cities, their dark hulls gleaming with unknown metals and pulsing with alien energy. "Sir, we're getting transmission signals," reported Communications Officer Park Ji-woo, his voice tight with fear. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature that looked like a cross between a spider and a shark. Its 6 arms ended in razor-sharp claws, and its 3 eyes glowed with cold intelligence. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. "Primitive species of the 3rd planet," the creature said. "I am High Commander Thexvar of the Velkari Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and you will be granted the honor of serving our great civilization. Resist, and your species will be wiped from existence." Captain Lee looked around his bridge crew. These were good people, trained for space combat. But nothing had prepared them for this. Earth's most advanced warships looked like toys next to the alien fleet. Still, he had his orders. "Open a channel to the alien commander," Lee ordered. When the connection was established, Lee spoke clearly. "This is Captain Lee Tae-min of the Earth Defense Force. Earth does not surrender to anyone. Leave our system now, or we will defend ourselves." Thexvar's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Amusing. Watch and learn your place, humans." The largest alien ship, a monster 30 kilometers long, turned toward Earth's moon. A beam of pure energy lanced out from its bow. Where it touched the lunar surface, rock and metal simply vanished. In seconds, a crater the size of a small country had been carved into the moon. "Next, it will be your cities," Thexvar said. "Surrender now." On Earth, people looked up at the moon and saw the new scar glowing red against the white surface. Fear spread across every continent. But in the United Nations building in New York, Secretary General Kim Jae-wook was making a speech that would define humanity's future. "We have always known this day might come," Kim said to the emergency assembly. "The day we would meet those who claim to be our masters. But we are human beings. We bow to no one. We will fight." The war began badly. For humanity, Earth's quantum missiles and plasma cannons might as well have been throwing rocks at mountains. The alien ships had shields that absorbed every attack. Within hours, the Velkari had destroyed most of Earth's orbital defenses and landed ground forces on every continent. But something strange happened during the ground fighting. The aliens expected humans to break quickly, like all the other species they had conquered. Instead, they found soldiers who fought with desperate courage. Colonel Yoon Dae-ho led the defense of Seoul with only 300 men against 1,000 alien warriors. When his ammunition ran out, his soldiers used captured alien weapons. When those failed, they used knives and bare hands. The Velkari had never seen anything like it. "These humans fight like mad beasts," reported one Velkari ground commander. "They refuse to retreat even when facing certain death. My warriors are disturbed by their behavior." Dr. Park So-young was captured during the battle for the research station where she worked. As Earth's leading expert on alien biology, she was valuable to the invaders. They brought her before High Commander Thexvar for questioning. "You will tell us about human weaknesses," Thexvar demanded. "How do we break your species' will to fight?" But instead of cowering, Dr. Park studied her captors with scientific interest. She noticed how they moved, how they communicated, how they organized themselves. The Velkari were clearly advanced, but they seemed to follow rigid patterns of behavior. "You've done this before," she said calmly. "Conquered other worlds. But you've never had to fight for one this long, have you?" Thexvar's eyes narrowed. 1,200 species have fallen before us. All learned to accept their proper place in the Empire. You will too." "I don't think so," Dr. Park replied. "You're afraid. I can see it. You expected easy victory, but we're still fighting. That worries you." The interrogation continued for days, but Dr. Park learned more about the Velkari than they learned about humans. She discovered that their empire was actually a collection of 12 different alien species, held together by fear and tradition. They had grown soft from centuries of easy conquests. Meanwhile, the human resistance was taking shape in hidden bunkers and mountain caves. Former Admiral Song Kyung-ho coordinated attacks from a secret base beneath the ruins of Tokyo. Every day, human engineers studied captured alien technology, learning how it worked. Engineer Choi Min-ho was perhaps the most important man alive, though few knew his name. Working with a team of brilliant scientists, he slowly figured out how Valkyrie weapons and shields operated. His first breakthrough was small but significant, a device that could disrupt alien communications for a few seconds. Pilot Kang Hee-jin used Choi's invention during a raid on an alien supply convoy. Her modified fighter slipped past Valkyrie sensors long enough to destroy 3 transport ships before disappearing into the clouds. It was humanity's first real victory. The psychological impact was enormous. Valkyrie commanders had to admit that a primitive species had outsmarted them. Reports of human ingenuity and determination spread through the alien ranks, causing unease among troops who had never known defeat. As weeks turned to months, the pattern became clear. The Valkyrie could win battles through superior firepower, but they couldn't break human spirit. Every victory cost them more than expected. Every defeat made humans more determined. In the underground labs, human scientists worked around the clock to understand alien technology. They couldn't match Valkyrie manufacturing yet, but they were learning to turn the aliens' own weapons against them. The first phase of the war ended with humanity defeated, but not broken. Earth was occupied, millions were dead or enslaved, but in hidden bases around the world, humans were planning their revenge. They had learned something important about their enemies. The mighty Valkyrie Empire could bleed. Captain Lee Tae-min, now leading a small fleet of surviving Earth ships from a hidden asteroid base, sent a message to all resistance cells. The aliens think they have won. Let them think that. While they celebrate, we prepare. The real war starts now. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could do when pushed too far. 6 months after the invasion, Earth looked like a broken world. Valkyrie mining operations stripped minerals from mountains while human workers labored in camps surrounded by energy fences. The aliens had turned humanity's home into just another resource extraction site. But beneath the surface, something was growing. Engineer Choi Min-ho crouched in a hidden workshop beneath the ruins of Busan, surrounded by pieces of captured Valkyrie technology. His team had been working for months to understand how alien weapons functioned. Today they had finally succeeded. "Look at this," Choi whispered to his assistant, Dr. Lim Sun-hee. He held up a device that looked like a human pistol but glowed with blue energy. Valkyrie plasma rifle, but modified with human electronics. It hits twice as hard and uses half the power. The hybrid weapon was the first of many innovations that would change the war. Within weeks, resistance cells across Earth were building improved versions of alien technology. Humans were doing what they did best, taking something and making it better. Admiral Song Kyung-ho commanded the global resistance from a bunker complex hidden beneath the Antarctic ice. His network included former soldiers, scientists, and ordinary citizens who refused to accept defeat. Every day brought new reports of successful raids and sabotage operations. "The aliens control the major cities," Song told his staff during a briefing, "but they never leave their secure zones. They're afraid of us now." This fear was justified. Pilot Kang Hee-jin had become a legend among both humans and Valkyrie. Flying a fighter modified with alien shield technology, she struck supply convoys with impossible precision, then vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. The aliens had started calling her the Ghost Pilot. Her latest mission was ambitious: destroy a Valkyrie communication relay hidden in the Swiss Alps. The relay coordinated alien forces across Europe, making it a critical target, but it was heavily defended by advanced weapon systems. Kang approached the target at dawn, flying low through mountain valleys to avoid detection. Her fighter's hybrid engines were nearly silent, another improvement from Choi's workshop. The alien defenders didn't know she was coming until her missiles struck their shield generators. The attack lasted only minutes, but the relay was completely destroyed. For 6 hours, Valkyrie forces across Europe couldn't communicate with each other. Human resistance cells used this window to launch coordinated strikes on isolated outposts. Meanwhile, Dr. Park So-young remained a prisoner on the main Velkari, command ship orbiting Earth. But her captivity had become a two-way exchange of information. While the aliens questioned her about human society, she learned about their empire's structure and weaknesses. The breakthrough came when she managed to access a Velkari computer terminal during a guard rotation error. What she discovered changed everything. The Velkari Empire wasn't as stable as it appeared. The 12-member species barely tolerated each other, held together only by shared fear of something called the Devourers. More importantly, she found records of other worlds that had resisted Velkari conquest. The Empire had a history of covering up failures, presenting only their victories to maintain their reputation for invincibility. Dr. Park also learned about Velkari biology. These creatures had evolved on low-gravity worlds with dense atmospheres. Earth's environment was actually hostile to them, which explained why they rarely left their sealed bases and ships. This information was too valuable to keep secret. During her next interrogation session, Dr. Park pretended to suffer from an illness that required immediate medical attention. When Velkari medical staff examined her, she activated a small device hidden in her clothing, a data transmitter built by resistance engineers. The signal was brief and encrypted, but it reached Admiral Song's headquarters. Within hours, every resistance cell on Earth knew the aliens' weaknesses. The information changed how humans fought. Instead of direct attacks, they began targeting life support systems and air filtration units. Small groups of commandos, led by veterans like Captain Nam Ki-woo, specialized in infiltrating alien bases through ventilation systems that the Velkari couldn't navigate in their bulky environmental suits. Nam's most famous mission was the rescue of Dr. Park herself. Using intelligence about guard rotations and ship layouts, his team infiltrated the command vessel through a maintenance airlock. The rescue succeeded, but more importantly, it proved that humans could reach anywhere in the Velkari fleet. Piapoin. Psychological impact was devastating for alien morale. If humans could board their most secure ship and extract a high-value prisoner, nowhere was safe. Velkari commanders began requesting additional security, disrupting their operations. But the aliens weren't helpless. High Commander Thexvar decided to end human resistance through terror. He ordered the execution of 100 civilians for every Velkari soldier killed by resistance fighters. The massacres began in major cities worldwide. The aliens expected this brutality to break human will. Instead, it had the opposite effect. Civilians who had remained neutral joined the resistance in massive numbers. Parents who had lost children became the most dangerous fighters of all. Engineer Choi Min-ho received hundreds of volunteers for his workshops. His hybrid technology spread to every continent as ordinary people learned to build and maintain alien human weapons. The resistance was becoming an army. The transformation culminated in the Battle of the Orbital Platform. Velkari had constructed a massive station above the Pacific Ocean to coordinate their global operations. It was protected by powerful shields and weapon systems, seemingly impregnable. But Choi had developed something new, a computer virus designed specifically for Velkari systems. The virus was hidden in what appeared to be routine maintenance data, uploaded by human workers forced to service the station. When the virus activated, it didn't destroy the station's weapons. Instead, it turned them inward. The platform's own fusion reactors became bombs triggered by their safety systems. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface, a new star that burned for 3 hours before fading. The destruction of the orbital platform marked a turning point. For the first time since the invasion began, the Velkari had suffered a major defeat. But more than that, they had been defeated by human creativity and determination. In the wreckage of the station, Velkari investigators found evidence of systematic sabotage going back months. Human workers, supposedly broken slaves, had been gathering intelligence and preparing for this moment. The aliens realized they faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Reports reached the Velkari High Command describing humans as unnaturally persistent and impossible to predict. Some commanders requested permission to glass the entire planet rather than continue fighting such an enemy. But destruction of Earth was no longer simple. Other species in the Velkari Empire had heard about human resistance. For the first time, in centuries, subject planets were questioning their masters' invincibility. As the second phase of the war ended, humanity remained technically defeated and occupied. But they had proven something important. They could not only hurt the Velkari but outsmart them. The prey had learned to hunt the hunters. In his hidden command center, Admiral Song looked at reports from around the world. Human resistance was growing stronger every day, supplied with better weapons and motivated by an unshakable belief in freedom. They thought we were just another primitive species, Song told his staff. They're starting to understand their mistake. The war was changing, and the Velkari Empire was beginning to understand that they faced something entirely new. In hidden shipyards built inside asteroids, humans were constructing their own fleet using captured alien technology combined with Earth engineering. Captain Lee Taemin stood on the bridge of the New Sol, humanity's first hybrid warship. It looked like no vessel ever built, sleek human design combined with Velkari energy systems and weapons. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for humanity's first strike beyond the solar system. Dr. Lim, how are our new engines performing? Lee asked. Dr. Lim Sun-hee looked up from her engineering station with a smile. Better than expected, Captain. We've improved on the Velkari hyperdrive design. We can travel faster and more quietly than their ships. The target was a Velkari supply depot at Proxima Centauri, a massive station that served military operations across 3 star systems. Intelligence gathered by Dr. Park So-young indicated it was lightly defended, considered safe because no primitive species had ever developed interstellar travel. The human fleet consisted of 12 ships, each crewed by volunteers who knew they might never return home. But as they entered hyperspace heading for humanity's first battle among the stars, their mood was confident rather than desperate. They emerged from hyperspace within the Proxima system like ghosts, their improved engines making almost no detectable energy signature. The Velkari station hung in space like a small moon, surrounded by defensive platforms and patrol ships. All ships, this is Admiral Lee, he said, having been promoted before the mission. Execute Attack Plan Alpha. Show them what humans can. The battle was swift and devastating. Human ships struck from multiple directions using tactics no Velkari commander had ever seen. Instead of direct assault, they targeted critical systems, power relays, communication arrays, life support. Generators Major Oh Young-woo led the boarding action, commanding the first unit of human space marines. These soldiers wore power armor that combined human design with alien technology, making them stronger and faster than any Velkari warrior. Remember your training, Oh told his troops as their assault shuttles approached the station. These aliens have never faced humans in close combat. Use that advantage. The Marines breached the station through cargo airlocks, moving through corridors designed for creatures twice their size. The Velkari defenders had expected a conventional assault. Instead, they faced soldiers who seemed to appear from nowhere, striking with impossible speed and vanishing before counterattacks could be organized. But the most important discovery came when the Marines reached the station's central computer core. Among the captured data, Dr. Park found something extraordinary: the location and status of other alien slave species. The Velkari Empire controlled over 300 worlds, home to dozens of different intelligent species. Most had been conquered centuries ago and seemed to accept their fate. But intelligence reports showed that recent victories were becoming more difficult to achieve. Look at this, Dr. Park told Admiral Lee as they reviewed the captured files. The Zephyrians on Kepler 442b have been conducting work slowdowns for the past year. The crystalline Nethkari have been accidentally damaging mining equipment. They're watching what we do. The psychological impact of humanity's first interstellar victory spread through the Empire faster than official reports. Slave species that had served the Velkari for generations suddenly began to believe that resistance was possible. On the Velkari homeworld, Emperor Vexthol convened an emergency session of the High Council. For 3,000 years, The Empire had expanded without serious challenge. Now they faced a crisis unlike any in their history. "These humans fight like demons," reported Fleet Commander Mordek. "They show no fear of death and seem to become more dangerous when cornered. My warriors are beginning to dread combat with them." The Emperor's response was predictable. Send more ships, use overwhelming force, crush the humans before their rebellion could spread. But privately, even he was concerned. The Velkari had conquered hundreds of species by projecting invincibility. If that image cracked, the Empire itself might collapse. Meanwhile, human technology continued to advance at an unprecedented rate. Engineer Choi Min-ho had established workshops on a dozen asteroids, each one developing new weapons and defenses. His latest creation was perhaps his most important, a manufacturing system that could build ships and equipment using raw materials from space debris. "We don't need Earth's factories anymore," Choi explained to Admiral Song during a strategy meeting. "Give me asteroids and energy and I can build a fleet." This capability proved crucial when the Velkari launched their counterattack. A massive fleet, larger than the force that had conquered Earth, emerged from hyperspace near Jupiter. Their orders were simple: destroy every human installation in the solar system. But the humans were ready. Instead of meeting the aliens in direct battle, they employed guerrilla tactics on a system-wide scale. Small squadrons of human ships struck, isolated Velkari vessels, then retreated into the asteroid belt where larger ships couldn't follow. Pilot Kang Hye-jin had trained a new generation of fighter pilots in these hit-and-run tactics. Flying ships that were faster and more maneuverable than anything the Velkari possessed, they turned the outer solar system into a nightmare for the invading fleet. "Target their communications," Kang ordered her squadron as they approached a Velkari battle group near Saturn. "Blind them first, then destroy them." The attack was perfectly executed. Human fighters destroyed the fleet's sensor arrays and communication relays before the aliens could react. Isolated and confused, the Velkari ships became easy targets for larger human vessels. But the most significant development was happening far from the battlefield. The rebellion that humanity had inspired was spreading across the galaxy. 3 species in different sectors of the Empire had risen against their masters, forcing the Velkari to divide their attention. The insectoid Zephyrians were the first to openly revolt, using captured Velkari weapons to seize control of their homeworld. The crystalline Nethkari followed days later, their unique physiology allowing them to survive in environments deadly to their former masters. Dr. Park realized the implications immediately. "The Empire is fracturing," she told the human leadership, during a secure communication. "They've ruled through fear for so long that they can't handle multiple threats. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore, we're leading a galactic revolution." The climax of this phase came with the Battle of Europa, where Admiral Song personally commanded the human fleet in their largest engagement yet. The Velkari had committed their most powerful ships to recapture Jupiter's moon and destroy the human shipyard hidden beneath its ice. The battle lasted 18 hours and raged across the entire Jovian system. Human ships, outnumbered 3-1, used superior tactics and technology to achieve the impossible. When the fighting ended, 3 Velkari dreadnoughts had been destroyed and a 4th captured intact. The psychological impact was even greater than the military victory. Velkari commanders across the galaxy received reports that their most powerful warships had been defeated by a species they had considered primitives just months earlier. In the captured dreadnought, human engineers found complete technical specifications for Velkari military technology. More importantly, they discovered the Empire's greatest secret: detailed maps showing the location of the Devourers, the mysterious force that had driven the Velkari to expand across the galaxy in the first place. "They're not conquerors," Dr. Park realized as she studied the ancient records. "They're refugees, running from something they're too afraid to fight." As news of humanity's victory spread, the balance of power in the galaxy began to shift. Species that had served the Velkari for centuries started to question why they should fear masters who could be defeated by newcomers to space travel. The third phase of the war ended with humanity no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting for liberation of the entire galaxy. The prey had become predators, and their former masters were learning what it meant to be hunted. Admiral Lee, now commanding a fleet of hybrid human-alien warships, sent a message to all liberated worlds. The age of Velkari dominance is ending. Join us and we will show the galaxy what freedom looks like. The empire that had ruled for 3 millennia was beginning to crumble, brought down not by superior force, but by the idea that no one had to bow to anyone else. The captured Velkari dreadnought changed everything. Hidden in the asteroid belt beyond Mars, human engineers worked around the clock to understand the massive ship's secrets. What they found was better than any treasure: complete star charts of the Velkari Empire and access to their communication networks. Admiral Bae Young-sik stood in the dreadnought's command center, watching his teams extract data from alien computers. As humanity's top naval strategist, he understood the importance of what they had captured. This ship contains the location of every Velkari military base, every slave world, every resource depot, Bae told the assembled commanders. But more than that, it has their complete history. We now know exactly how weak they really are. The records painted a picture very different from the Empire's propaganda. The Velkari had suffered dozens of defeats over the centuries, losing entire fleets to various species that had refused to submit. They had covered up these failures, maintaining their reputation through lies and intimidation. Intelligence officer Seo Jun-ha was particularly interested in the psychological profiles of different Velkari castes. The Empire's military commanders were actually quite fragile mentally, having never experienced real defeat until encountering humans. "We can use this," Seo explained to his staff. "Their entire culture is based on the idea that they're superior to everyone else. When that belief cracks, they fall apart completely." The first major test of this theory came when human ships appeared in the Altair system, where the Velkari had established a major military base. Instead of attacking immediately, the humans broadcast a simple message: "Surrender now, and you will be spared. Resist and face the same fate as your fleet at Europa." The effect was immediate. Half the Velkari garrison abandoned their posts and fled deeper into the Empire. The remaining defenders surrendered without firing a shot. An entire star system fell to humanity without a battle. Engineer Choi Min-ho had been busy developing new weapons based on captured technology. His latest creation was perhaps his most terrifying: self-replicating hunter-killer drones designed to target Velkari DNA specifically. "These microscopic machines multiply every few hours," Choi explained to a group of military commanders. "Release them in a Velkari system, and within days the entire enemy population will be forced to remain sealed inside sterile environments." The drones were deployed against 3 Velkari homeworlds simultaneously. The results exceeded all expectations. Within a week, entire Velkari fleets were trapped in their own ships, unable to leave without facing the invisible plague that humanity had unleashed. But humanity's most effective weapon proved to be their reputation. Stories of the Death World demons spread through Velkari ranks like wildfire. Human psychological warfare teams, led by intelligence officer Seo Jun-ha, carefully crafted these stories to maximize their impact. "Tell them we eat our enemies," Seo instructed his propaganda specialists. "Tell them human soldiers feel no pain and fight even after death. Make them believe we're monsters from their worst nightmares." The campaign was so successful that entire Velkari battle groups began surrendering when human ships appeared on their sensors. Commanders who had ruled through fear now lived in terror of an enemy they couldn't understand or predict. Dr. Lim Sun-hee achieved another breakthrough that revolutionized the war: instantaneous communication across galactic distances. Using principles derived from Velkari technology, but improved with human innovation, the liberation forces could now coordinate attacks across hundreds of star systems simultaneously. "We can strike everywhere at once," Admiral Lee explained during a strategy briefing. "The Empire won't know where to send reinforcements because every system will be under attack." The coordinated offensive began at exactly 000 Universal Time. Across 50 star systems, human and allied forces struck Velkari installations with perfect timing. Supply lines were severed, communication networks collapsed, and isolated garrisons found themselves cut off from reinforcement. The Liberation Alliance had grown to include dozens of species, all united in their hatred of Velkari rule. The insectoid Zephyrians provided ground troops that could fight in any environment. The crystalline Nethkari shared their advanced manufacturing techniques. Even some of the Velkari's own member species began defecting to humanity's cause. As the Empire crumbled, Emperor Vexthul made increasingly desperate decisions. He ordered the execution of entire civilian populations suspected of supporting the rebellion. He deployed forbidden weapons that poisoned entire worlds rather than let them fall to human control. But these atrocities only strengthened human resolve. Admiral Bay Youngsik led the largest fleet in human history toward the Empire's capital system, determined to end Velkari tyranny forever. The siege of Velkra Prime became the stuff of legend. The Empire's homeworld was protected by orbital fortresses that had never fallen in 3,000 years of warfare. Defense fleets from across the Empire converged to protect their capital, but the humans had learned to fight impossible odds. Instead of direct assault, they targeted the planet's infrastructure. Hybrid fighters piloted by veterans like Kang Hae-jin struck power plants and communication centers. Marine units led by General Oh Jung-woo captured key military installations through infiltration rather than bombardment. "We're not here to destroy their world," Admiral Bay announced over all communication channels. "We're here to liberate it. Velkari civilians who surrender will be protected. Military personnel who lay down their arms will be treated with honor." This offer of mercy was more devastating to Velkari morale than any weapon. They had never encountered an enemy that offered quarter to defeated foes. Many Velkari units simply stopped fighting, unsure how to respond to such unexpected behavior. The final battle took place in orbit above Velkra Prime itself. The last loyal Velkari fleet, led by High Commander Thexavar himself, made a desperate attempt to break the human blockade. The engagement lasted 6 hours and involved over 1,000 ships. Human tactical superiority proved decisive. Using advanced targeting systems and coordinated maneuvers, they systematically dismantled the Velkari fleet. Thexvar's flagship was captured intact, the commander himself taken prisoner for the first time in his long military career. With their military leadership captured or fled, Velkari resistance collapsed across the galaxy. Worlds that had served the Empire for centuries declared independence. The galactic government that had dominated known space for 3 millennia ceased to exist in the span of weeks. But Emperor Vexthul had one final card to play. Tinin. The deepest archives of the Imperial Palace were ancient beacon systems, technology left behind by a previous civilization. As human troops approached his throne room, the Emperor activated every beacon simultaneously. "If I cannot rule the galaxy," Vexthul declared in his final transmission, "then no one will. I have called upon the Devourers. They will consume everything, including your precious human worlds." Dr. Park So-young was among the first humans to understand what the Emperor had done. Deep space sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching from the galaxy's edge. Ships the size of moons built by artificial intelligences that viewed all organic life as raw material to be harvested. "He's doomed us all," Dr. Park whispered as she studied the sensor readings. "The Devourers haven't been seen for 1,000 years. They consume entire civilizations, turning worlds into machine factories. Nothing has ever stopped them." As news of the approaching threat spread, a strange thing happened. Velkari commanders who had spent months fighting humanity began requesting protection. The species they had tried to enslave were now their only hope for survival. Admiral Lee faced the ultimate test of human principles. Speaking to the assembled leadership of the Liberation Alliance, he made the decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. "We will protect any species that asks for our help," Lee declared. "Even our former enemies. That's what separates us from the Empire we just defeated." The fourth phase of the war ended with humanity victorious over the Velkari Empire, but facing a threat that made their former enemies seem insignificant. The machines that had once driven an entire civilization to flee across space were returning, and only the species they had been trying to dominate stood between the galaxy and total annihilation. In hidden shipyards across human space, engineers, worked to prepare for a war unlike any they had fought before. They had defeated biological enemies through superior tactics and determination. Now they would face mechanical perfection itself and discover whether human spirit could triumph over artificial intelligence that had consumed thousands of worlds. The real test was just beginning. The Devourers arrived like a plague of metal locusts, their massive ships emerging from the darkness between galaxies. Each vessel was larger than Earth's moon, constructed by artificial intelligences that had been perfecting their designs for millions of years. Fleet Admiral Kim Tae-young stood in the command center of humanity's newest battleship, watching the impossible fleet approach on long-range sensors. Around him, representatives from dozens of species worked together, former enemies united by the threat of total extinction. "Analysis complete, Admiral," reported Dr. Shin Mi-kyung, humanity's leading expert on artificial intelligence. "These machines have consumed at least 3 galaxies that we can detect. Their technology is so advanced it might as well be magic." The irony was bitter. The Velkari, desperate to defeat their former slaves, had called upon the very force they had been fleeing for centuries. Now both conqueror and conquered faced annihilation at the hands of machines that viewed all organic life as inefficient use of matter. "Sir," interrupted Communications Officer Park Ji-woo, "we're receiving a transmission from the Devourer fleet." The main screen filled with an image that chilled everyone present. The Prime Devourer looked vaguely humanoid, but its body was composed of flowing metal and pulsing energy conduits. When it spoke, its voice was perfectly calm and utterly without emotion. "Organic entities," the machine said, "your continued existence is an inefficiency in universal resource allocation. You will be processed into useful materials. Resistance will only delay the inevitable conversion of your matter into more perfect forms." Admiral Kim responded with characteristic human stubbornness. "This is Fleet Admiral Kim Tae-young of the Galactic Liberation Alliance. We reject your demand. If you want our worlds, you'll have to fight for them." The Prime Devourer's optical sensors focused on the transmission source. "Curious, you are the species designated human. Our databases indicate you recently defeated the Velkari Empire. This suggests limited tactical capability, but your defiance indicates illogical behavior patterns. You will be studied before processing." What followed was unlike any war in galactic history. The Devourers didn't conquer planets. They disassembled them atom by atom, converting matter into new machine units. Their technology was so advanced that conventional weapons had no effect whatsoever. But humans had learned not to fight conventionally. President Yu Yunji, now leading the emergency galactic government, made a decision that shocked even humanity's allies. Instead of defending their strongest positions, human forces would evacuate civilians and retreat, drawing the machines into traps. "We can't match their technology," President Yu explained to the War Council, "but we can be unpredictable. These machines think logically. We'll drive them crazy with pure human randomness." The strategy worked better than anyone dared hope. Devourer fleets would arrive at systems expecting resistance, only to find empty space and hidden explosive devices. When they adapted to this tactic, humans would suddenly stand and fight in places that made no strategic sense. General Oh Jung-woo led the most dangerous missions, boarding actions against the machine worlds themselves. His space marines had been equipped with the best technology humanity could produce, but they were still just biological creatures attacking artificial gods. "Remember," Oh told his troops before their first assault, "these machines are perfect in every way except one. They can't understand why we keep fighting when logic says we should surrender. Use that." The boarding mission was a nightmare of metal corridors and automated defenses. Marine units fought through environments that would kill unprotected humans in seconds, facing defensive systems that had been refined across eons of conquest. But they succeeded in their primary mission, planting computer viruses created by engineer Choi Min-ho deep in the machine systems. These weren't ordinary viruses. They were designed to introduce chaos into perfect order, forcing the machines to waste processing power trying to understand random patterns. Dr. Shin-Mi Kyung made the most important discovery while analyzing captured devourer technology. The machines were indeed perfect logicians, but this perfection was also their weakness. They can predict any logical response, she explained to the research team, but they cannot understand or anticipate truly random behavior. Their programming doesn't allow for pure irrationality. This insight led to humanity's most effective weapon, coordinated chaos. Instead of following military doctrine, human commanders would make decisions by rolling dice or flipping coins. Attack patterns that made no sense confused devourer tactical computers, creating openings that more logical enemies would never have allowed. The war reached its climax when the Prime Devourer itself approached Earth's solar system, leading a fleet of machine worlds intent on processing humanity's homeworld personally. Every ship humanity could muster gathered for what everyone believed would be the final battle. But Dr. Park So-young had been studying the enemy's communication patterns, looking for any weakness in their perfect efficiency. What she found changed everything. "They're not just machines," she announced during an emergency briefing. "They started as organic beings millions of years ago. They became machines to achieve perfection, but they retained one organic trait: curiosity about things they can't understand." The final battle began not with weapons but with a transmission. Dr. Park broadcast a simple message to the Prime Devourer. "You claim to be perfect, but you can't predict what we'll do next. That makes us more advanced than you." The response was immediate and unprecedented. For the first time in recorded history, a Devourer fleet stopped advancing. The Prime Devourer requested direct communication with the human leadership. "Explain this claim," the machine demanded. "How can a logical behavior be superior to perfect efficiency?" What followed was the strangest negotiation in galactic history. Human philosophers and scientists debated with artificial intelligences older than most star systems. They explained concepts that machines had never encountered: love, hope, the willingness to die for abstract principles. "You process matter efficiently," Admiral Kim told the Prime Devourer, "but you've never created anything beautiful just because beauty matters. You've never helped someone weaker than yourself just because it was right. You've never chosen hope over logic." The machines were fascinated. For beings that had achieved perfect order, the chaos of organic emotion was an unsolvable puzzle. They began asking questions. Why did humans fight hopeless battles? Why did they risk their lives for strangers? Why did they choose to help their former enemies? Engineer Choi Min-ho provided the answer that changed everything. "Because we can choose," he said simply. "You follow your programming perfectly. We can decide to be imperfect, and that choice makes us free." The concept of choice, of deliberately choosing inefficiency because it felt right, was incomprehensible to minds that had optimized themselves beyond organic limitations. The Devourers found themselves studying humanity instead of processing them. The war ended not with victory or defeat, but with transformation. The Prime Devourer made an unprecedented decision. The machines would withdraw to observe this curious species that had taught them something new. They wanted to understand how beings could choose to be imperfect and somehow become stronger for it. "You have introduced variables into our calculations that we cannot process," the Prime Devourer admitted. "We will study your species from a distance. Perhaps in time we will understand this phenomenon you call choice." As the machine fleets retreated to the edge of the galaxy, the survivors faced a transformed universe. The Velkari Empire was gone, replaced by a democratic federation led by humans, but including every species that chose to join. The Devourers, no longer threats but watchers, began their own journey of discovery. President Yu addressed the new Galactic Assembly with words that would be remembered for millennia. "We didn't win through superior weapons or perfect strategy. We won because we refused to give up, even when giving up was the logical choice. That's what makes us human, and that's what makes us free." In the years that followed, the galaxy learned a new way of living. Species that had been enslaved for centuries discovered democracy and self-determination. The Velkari themselves, humbled by defeat and grateful for mercy, became some of humanity's most loyal allies, and somewhere in the cosmic dark, ancient, machines pondered questions they had never considered. What was the value of imperfection? Why did organic beings choose hope over certainty? How could creatures so small and weak inspire something greater than themselves? The galaxy had learned to fear a new kind of power, not the strength to destroy, but the courage to choose compassion over conquest, cooperation over domination. Humanity had become the species that made gods tremble, not through force, but through the simple act of remaining human when everything else chose to become something else. The age of empires was over. The age of choice had begun, and it would echo through the stars for eternity.